Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Foxy and this is Foxy Books and Planning. It's the time of the month again where I do my reading wrap up, which is a summary of all the books I've read for the month, I'm currently working on, and my next on deck books for when I finish things. And with that, let's just jump right into it. So the first book I finished in the month of September was a book called How to Date Your Dragon by Molly Harper. This is the first book in the Mystic Bayou series. And I read the novella that was associated with this book the previous month. So I decided I liked the writing enough to go back and read the whole series. Molly Harper also wrote one of the books that's on my 100 Greatest Science Fiction and Fantasy Books called Nice Girls Don't Have Fangs, which is a similar adult romance novel featuring a vampire. This one, Mystic Bayou, is a town that is inhabited by magique, which are magical creatures of all sorts, shifters, all kinds of fairy tale mythical creatures, etc. So this was done as an Audible original. It's only available from Audible, and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it for an adult light romance. The mystery part of it was kind of predictable, but in general, I really enjoyed the story. The second book is Recursion by Blake Crouch. I listened to this as an audiobook and I gave it 3 stars. I read this one as part of my workplace's, book club. We have a book club through our Yammer site for work, and this was the book that we had chosen for August, September. I liked the idea of it, but it deals with memory and alternate universes and alternate timelines, and I liked the ideas, but I did not like how the third act was executed. And I wasn't really a fan of the characterization, but it was still an okay read, so that's why I got 3 stars. The next book is the only physical loose term, I finished this month. Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, which I did as an ebook from my library. I also gave this one 3 stars. Please, John Green fans, do not come for me. I just didn't really enjoy the book. The way Murphy or Nafir puts it was the same issues I had with the book, where I went in expecting this mystery because you have your main character who's trying to hunt down a missing billionaire for the reward, and the book really isn't about the girl hunting down the billionaire. It's about her and how she deals with her anxiety and really how the anxiety affects her everyday life. And while I do appreciate that, because John Green is writing about his own experiences with anxiety and OCD, and a lot of his descriptions resonated with me as I also have anxiety, the main story just wasn't there for me. I would have liked a little bit more emphasis on that searching for the missing billionaire, because it kind of bookends the book, but it doesn't have a whole lot to do with what's in the middle. The next book I finished was what was on deck from the month of August, which is The Beholder by Anna Bright. I did this as an audiobook from my library, and I gave it 2 stars. This book is billed as The Odyssey meets The Bachelorette. The kind of basic premise is your main character, whose name escapes me. I'm really bad at remembering main characters' names right now. But our main character is the heir apparent to the Kingdom of Potomac, and she is sent away by her evil stepmother to find a husband. And there are lots of fairy tale elements. There is an element of the Odyssey, but I felt that the story was too dragged out because this is a duology. The second book is not out yet. And the first book covers her first 2 visits and the initial journey. And then my understanding is the last book's going to cover the last visit and some of the other things that kind of come up towards the end of the book. Personally, I would have preferred this to be one larger book as opposed to a duology. because I believe this book is only about 350 pages or something. But if you could have made it one longer book and maybe cut out some of the description and maybe some of the meet and greets, because they spend a lot of time with each of the two potential candidates that you meet in this book. There are long, flowery descriptions. There's lots of time spent on what they're doing and what they're eating and what they're wearing, and I would have preferred to have that stuff trimmed down and had more time spent actually getting through the plot, essentially, because this whole first book is essentially the prologue to the second book. Is now we've set up what's going on, now we can get to the actual meat of what's going to happen. I also didn't appreciate the fact that this had a lot of insta-love in it, where every time our main character meets a new potential partner, she falls in love with them straight away. Ish. Each time she meets someone who's a potential love interest, she falls in love with them immediately before really getting to know them. And it irritates the crap out of me. Moving on, the next book I read was The City of Falling Angels by Jonathan Burnett. This was an audiobook from my library. I gave it 2 stars. This is a true crime, and yes, I did do finger quotes, book about the burning of the Fenice, or the arson of the Fenice Opera House in Venice. And that's why I started reading this one, was I actually wanted to read In the Garden of Good and Evil first, but this book came from the library before the Garden of Good and Evil did. And this is one of those books where it builds itself as true crime. It's supposed to be investigating this arson, and it's really kind of a look at Venice in the 90s, where John goes through and he talks about all the interesting characters he met, all the expats, all the stories, all the drama. And it was just not for me. I struggled to get through this audiobook. At one point I was listening to it at 1.75, almost two times speed, just to get through it. And I really would have preferred more focus, and maybe more condensed focus, on the opera house and some of the things directly connected to it, as opposed to going off on all of these kind of tangenty discussions. Next book is actually a DNF. It's The First Conspiracy, The Secret Plot to Kill George Washington by Brad Metzer. Did this as an audiobook from my library. I DNF'd it at 37%, and it gets 1 star from me. So the way that this was billed was that it's nonfiction, and it's supposed to be documenting this secret plot to kill George Washington during the Revolutionary War. And there are a couple of reviews that I probably should have heeded about this book before I started reading it, where basically the whole conspiracy isn't historically recognized. It's only mentioned in 1 or 2 journal passages or diary passages that were written well after the fact. And so Brad Metzer spends a lot of time talking about the early days of the Revolutionary War, George Washington being elected or being nominated to take on the generalship of the Continental Army, the camping in Boston, the freeing of Boston from British control, etc., etc. And the reason why I DNF'd it was, 1, wasn't what it was billed to be, kind of like City of Falling Angels and The Beholder. But 2, my big reason for DNFing it was the way the writing style was written. Is that Brad Metzer is normally a writer of thrillers. And so every chapter of this book ended with, and what this person's decisions may have changed the course of history. Every chapter ended that way, was somebody's decision or somebody's thoughts may have changed the course of history. And like, no, we know how history went. Don't speculate. Present the facts, present your thesis, present your supporting evidence, and move on. All right. Refreshing after my run of duds. My next book, which is book 7, was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I believe. audiobook from my library. I read this one on kind of a whim. I didn't know what it was about when I put it on hold at the library, but I put it on hold because it seemed interesting. The general plot is we're following a main character, Theo, who's telling everything from his point of view. And he has taken a job at a psychiatric facility to try and help a patient there, Alicia, who has been convicted of murdering her husband and has not said a word since his murder. And Theo's trying to get Alicia to speak. And so there are a couple of different storylines, but that's the main storyline, is Theo trying to unravel the mystery of what happened to Alicia and try and figure out why she's not speaking and getting her to speak again. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I did like the twist at the end. My only complaint, which is why it got 4 stars, is that I feel like the author fell a little bit short on the foreshadowing of that twist ending. It's one thing to hide a twist ending, and there's another thing to just kind of pull it out of thin air because you have to wrap your book up, and that's kind of what it felt like, is that we spent the whole book with these carefully intricately interwoven storylines, and the author was like, crud, I gotta bring all these storylines together. How am I gonna do this? And he kind of rushed it at the end with this big twist and reveal to get it done. And there really wasn't an adequate groundwork, in my personal opinion, set up earlier in the book to make that ending work. I really felt like he needed maybe a couple more chapters, maybe a little bit more foreshadowing in the early chapters of the book to kind of explain what happened. But I'm not going to spoil it. And the last book I finished this month was Love and Other Wild Things by Molly Harper. This is book 2 in the Mystic Bayou series. This one focuses on a different set of characters, but still in the same world, still related, still in Mystic Bayou. Again, 4 stars. Really liked the romance aspect of it. I liked how this book focused much more on the romance than the first book did, and I like how I got to see all the threads come together to tie into the novella, and I'm sure in October I'll probably pick up the 3rd book, which is Selkies Are a Girl's Best Friend. But I really enjoyed the series, and I'm probably going to continue listening to it. So now we are on to currently reading books. I have 5 of them. The first is Deadly Assessments by Drew Hayes, which is an audiobook. I am 38% of the way through. This is the 6th or 7th. I think it's the 6th. I'll put a correction up if I'm wrong. Book in the Fred the Vampire Accountant series. I started this one on a road trip with my spouse, and I'm working on finishing it up. I'll probably have it finished up in the next couple of days, and it'll probably be the first book for my October, what I finished reading. My next one is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I was working on this one last month as well. Don't mind my pages flipping. So I was at 17% last month, and I'm at 59% this month, so really good progress. That's 32% progress. Making good progress. I'm excited to continue reading and finish this guy up. Hopefully I'll get this one finished in October. I do have another book club book that that isn't available until October 1st that I'm going to need to read as well during the month of October, and I'm hoping I'll have this guide done so I can start reading that one. All right, book 3 is the History of Science and Antiquity, History of Science Antiquity to 1700, which is a great course from Audible, lectured by Dr. Lawrence Principal. I haven't had any progress since my August update. I just haven't wanted to really listen to it, and I've been busy with all of these library books. Because the reason I had so many library books in September is the first week of September I had like 7 or 8 library audiobooks all become available at the same time, and so I spent all of September trying to speed through those books. So I didn't really get to work on any of my personally owned audiobooks. Kingsbane is next by Claire Legrand. No progress since last month. I've had this at my desk all month, and I haven't taken a lunch break in the month of September, so I haven't had a chance to read it. I have brought it home, and I'm going to leave it at home for a while to see if it can get me into reading it again. This one, I'm not enjoying as much as the first one, but I'm trying to power through it because I really do want to finish it. All right, and my last book in progress is Heart of Europe, A History of the Holy Roman Empire by Peter Wilson. Is an audiobook. No progress since last month for the same reason I haven't had any progress on the history of science, antiquity to 1700. Hopefully, again, if I have fewer library books come available and I don't have too many other things, hopefully I'll be able to make some progress on it this month. On deck for the month of October, the audiobook I have on deck, I'm going to have to finish it this month because it's a library audiobook, is The Good Neighbor by Maxwell King. It's a biography of Mr. Rogers, and I'm really excited for it. I've been waiting for it from the library for like 3 months. So I'm really excited to get into this one as soon as I finish Fred the Vampire Account. And my next one, another library book, but this is an ebook. This is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I'm hoping that I'll get through that one really quickly because if I remember correctly, it's a fairly short book, and I really do enjoy Gabriel Garcia Marquez's writing. And I'm hoping it won't take me that long. As an ebook, I'll probably read it in the car, or if I actually take a lunch break, I'll read it at lunch. But yes, those are all the books that I have for this month. So that was 8 completed books, 5 in progress, and my 2 on deck. And with that, please leave me any comments about any of the books that I talked about today. If you have any thoughts about them, if you agree or disagree with my ratings or my takes, or you have any kind of suggestions about what I should read next, please hit me up in the comments below. With that, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk at you soon. Bye.